Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be back. I first want to apologize for not being active for the past 3 years for No Sweat English due to the pandemic and coronavirus, which has really made life difficult, I think, for many people, not just for me. During these 3 years, I've had a change of career. I'm back to teaching ESL actually, which I'm really excited about. Looking back, I'm just so thankful for all my subscribers and viewers. So I just want to say thank you for staying with me and supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. Looking back at all my videos, it seems like my how to write essays videos seem to be very popular. So I'm creating another one today called the Argumentative essay, which is a very important and popular essay to write in college. Without any delaying, I would like to start presenting to you how to write an argumentative essay. So, first of all, what is an argumentative essay? It is an essay where you choose one side of the issue, whether you support or against the issue, and it is your job to convince the readers that your side is correct. How do we convince people that our ideas are worth considering? One way is to also present the other side of the argument so that you show your readers you have considered both sides of the argument, not just being stubborn and stuck to your own side, that you've actually thought about what the other side is thinking. So that's one way to convince your readers that, hey, I reviewed both sides and finally, my side is still what I support. So what do I need for an argumentative essay? So typically professors in university or college may require you to write a 5-paragraph essay. And this is kind of how I show my students what to do. So for the 5 paragraphs, you have the 5 corresponding points. First, you have introduction. Then you have 2 main points highlighting your side. And then the paragraph 4 is probably the most confusing one for people. Like, how do you talk about the other side? So paragraph 4, you will introduce the other side in what we call the counter argument, and a concession to say why you understand the other side, and then something called refutation, why the other side is still wrong or the other side is still something that you don't support. And finally, we will end with a conclusion. So I just want to start from the beginning to end on how to create this essay. I want to give us a sample topic to do this with. And I think one of the kind of controversial topic these days is should students be allowed to use cell phones in class, right? So there are pros and cons, meaning there are advantages and disadvantages of both approach. Some students or some teachers allow students to use cell phones in class and some don't for good reasons. And I want to explore both sides. So the first thing I want to do is what we call the brainstorm session. So brainstorm is where you take out a piece of paper and a pen or pencil to jot down as many ideas as you can without thinking about grammar, vocabulary, or spelling. Just write down the ideas as much as you can. So I would say give yourself maybe 3 to 4 minutes to do that. And then because this is an argumentative essay, I think it's helpful to come up with the ideas depending on the advantages and disadvantages. So here you can see I've made a chart, and for the ideas that support cell phone use in class and the ideas that do not support cell phone use in class. So my 3 points for supporting cell phone use in class are: first, you can quickly find information, right? Students can use it as a dictionary or a translator, so it's very fast. Second, there's been a lot of kind of problems going on sometimes in public schools or universities, and maybe you have an emergency. So if you have your cell phone with you, you can contact your family or other people as soon as you can. Third is you can stay updated about current news or what's happening at the moment. So if you're someone who's curious, who needs the update on knowing what's going on, kind of keeping on the pulse of what's happening in society, you can stay updated while you have your phone with you. The other 3 points I can think of that do not support cell phone use in class are that students first get easily distracted, right? So you see TikTok and YouTube being very, very popular. Students may just want to be watching that instead of listening to the teacher. So it can be very distracting. Students can distract others as well with their noise or images or videos. They're looking on their phone. They're Students sitting next to them might want to also look at what they're looking at, so that's a problem. And also, it can be disrespectful to your teachers. Your teachers do spend a lot of time planning the lesson, and you're not paying attention. You might have the teacher repeat what he or she said, or basically just not able to follow class. Okay, so here I have two sides and I have 3 points each. Of course, you can come up with a lot more of ideas for yourself to choose from, but this is what I have for now. So let's start from the beginning of an introduction. So what is typically in an introduction is a hook, the background information, and thesis statement. I often get asked what background information is. So background information is anything that you feel like your readers need to know about the topic before you start going into whether you support or not support. Okay, so that's what background information is, connecting the hook with the thesis statement. So let's start with what a hook is. A hook is for you to write something that would attract the reader's attention. So you can choose one of these methods to do that. First, you can use a question. For example, you can ask the thought-provoking question, have you ever secretly used your cell phone during class? Or you can start your hook as a statement, cell phones are a major distraction to students in class. You can also use what we call an anecdote, which is a personal story. So maybe this is some student's personal story. When I was in college, I never paid attention in class. All I did was watch YouTube and TikTok. Because of this, I didn't do very well in school. Okay, so maybe you're starting your introduction with a personal story. You can also use statistics or scientific data. So you can use something like 85% of teachers disagree with students using cell phones in class. And of course, if you use scientific data, don't forget citation, where you got the information from. And finally, you can also use a famous quote. Here's one from Steve Jobs. What a computer is to me is the most remarkable tool that we have ever come up with. So you can use that maybe in support of technology if you're talking about that in your essay. Okay, so those are 5 common ways to use as a hook. Next, background information is to connect your hook with your thesis statement. So any background information about the topic that readers should know before reading your essay is your background information. So here's mine. These days, cell phones have been very popular and their use in the classroom is quite controversial. They're everywhere now. Even young children have access to their own cell phones. Cell phones can be a very useful and convenient tool when used properly, but it can be distracting when used at the wrong time. Okay, so that's my background information. So we talked about a hook, we talked about background information. Next is the thesis statement. Thesis statement is the most important sentence in your essay. It's basically the meat in your hamburger, if you will, or the meat in your sandwich that basically tells the reader exactly what you're trying to do with this essay. Now, different writing styles in different cultures, a lot of times, for example, they leave the most important sentence maybe at the end of the essay, but for American academic writing, your thesis statement, which is this important sentence, needs to come usually in the introduction or very early on in your essay so that your readers know what they're dealing with. Without it, you do not have a very good essay. So the way I teach my students how to write thesis statements, since the essay will include both sides, is that you will put the other side in your thesis statement as well as your side. So we're going to use some contrasting words to talk about the other side. For example, you can use while, even though, although, plus the other side, and then your side and the two main reasons you're using to support yourself. So here I'm saying, even though many students prefer to use their cell phones in class. Okay, so I have even though plus my other side that I'm not supporting. Then I launch into my side. Using cell phones is distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers. So hopefully you're able to see how I made this thesis statement. Again, first you start with a contrasting signal word like even though, plus the other side, so whichever side you're not supporting. So many students prefer to use their cell phones in class. Then you can launch into your side. Using cell phones is distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers. And my two reasons are distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers. Okay, so this is my thesis statement. So as an American student or someone who's reading this thesis statement, they'll be able to realize, hey, which is what and what your side is. Now, I want to just caution you a little bit to be careful not to say something like, I believe cell phone is distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers. That actually weakens your stance, because when you put something like I believe or I think, you're telling the readers this is just your point of view. And readers will kind of go, well, who are you for me to believe? But if you're just going to state it as a fact, like using cell phones is distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers, you are in some way making your stance more credible and more important and serious by saying that this is true regardless of what I believe. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So here's the full introduction I put together for you. I've picked a hook from 2 slides ago. So my hook is, have you ever secretly used your cell phone during class? And then my background information. These days, cell phones have been very popular and their use in the classroom is quite controversial. They're everywhere now. Even young children have access to their own cell phones. Cell phones can be very useful and convenient tool when used properly, but it can be distracting when used at the wrong time. And then my thesis statement. Even though many students prefer to use their cell phones in class, using cell phones is distracting to students and disrespectful to teachers. Okay, so that's my introduction. Now let's launch into body paragraphs. So here I have just 2 main body paragraphs listed in my thesis, and I'm using 2 details per main point. And of course you can customize this as much as you want to. You can have 3 main points and 3 details each, or 4 main points and 3 details each. It's really up to you. This is your essay, but I'm just using this as a sample to show you how to write this essay. So let's look at some main points. So first of all, you should pay attention to signal words, right? To signal transitions in your writing. So the red colors are my signal words. And at the beginning of a paragraph, you also want to have a topic sentence, right? So here's my topic sentence. First, using cell phones can be very distracting to students. That's my topic sentence. And then I launch into my details. There's so many popular and attractive apps and games on the internet that students can visit at any time. Students that cannot control themselves may find it hard to resist going on these sites to play during class, which will cause them to lose concentration in class. Additionally, when other students can see their phone, the other students will also be distracted from class, causing a chain reaction of distracted students. So I have 2 details here about how it can distract a student using it and also distracting other students around this one student using the cell phone. Okay, so that's my first body paragraph. Second, which is my second idea, is disrespectful to teachers. Here is my second topic sentence. Second, using cell phones during class is disrespectful to teachers. And here's my detail 1. Teachers spend a lot of time and energy to prepare for class. When teachers are teaching, it is disrespectful to the teacher who's talking to students, trying very hard to teach them. Detail number 2, using a signal word. Moreover, even if students are using the cell phone to look up information, it may be more appropriate to just ask the teacher directly instead of looking at the cell phone. It is almost impossible for the teacher to know what the student is doing on the cell phone, looking up information or playing games. This may cause the teacher to be upset. So this is my body 2. So far, body 1 and body 2 both support my point of view, which is using cell phone is not appropriate for students in class. Now I'm launching into my third body paragraph, which is the other side. So there will be 3 points in here. We have the counter argument, which you present the other side. You're going to have the concession, say why you understand the other side, and a refutation, so say why the other side is still wrong. So here's my counter argument. Some people, which is not me, some people might argue that cell phones can be very useful for students to access information quickly during class. That's my counter argument, presenting the other side. Now we add a concession, something like, this may be true. Okay, so I'm not saying this is not true, I'm saying this could be true. Then refutation, which is my point of view in how I argue against the counter argument. However, when students are using their cell phone in class, it is impossible for them to pay attention to the class. The whole purpose of attending the class is to listen to the lesson presented by the teacher. If students have a question, they can ask the teacher directly, or they can wait until break time to look up the information they need. Okay, so let's review a little bit. So here we have 3 parts. Again, we're going to start with the counter argument, the other side, which is and then you're going to go on with a concession. This may be true. You're saying, I kind of do see the other side. And then your transition word, however, because you're going to try to debate with a counter argument. Then you put your side to saying why the other side is still incorrect. So you use however, and then you put what we call your refutation. Next, we have conclusion. Here, there usually are 2 to 3 parts. So first, you want to restate your thesis statement. Please pay attention, I said restate, not copy or repeat. You're restating thesis statement, meaning you are saying your thesis statement again, but using other words. You're going to try to review the main points a little bit and give a concluding statement, which can be a question for the readers to think about, or a call to action. What do you want your readers to do with this information? Okay, so those are 3 points you need in the conclusion. So here I am restating my thesis statement. Although cell phones have proved to be an excellent source of information for students during class, it makes many students lose their attention in class, and it is impolite to the teacher who is teaching the students. So that's my restatement of my thesis. Students will not be able to pay proper attention in class when using their cell phones, and it makes the teacher feel uncomfortable. So here I am reviewing my main points, and then I have a call to action concluding sentence. Students should wait until after class to use their phone to find information, not during. Okay, so that is my conclusion for the essay. All right. I hope this was a useful resource for you in how to write an argumentative essay. If you haven't and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and consider subscribing, which would really help me out with my channel and support me in what I can continue to do. And if you have any questions, comments, I would really like to see them in the comments section. And if you have any suggestions for any videos you'd like me to post or teach, I would really appreciate you suggesting that in the comments section as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your attention. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.